रोहित, मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
यस सर।
थोड़ा सा बिल्कुल हटके लेक्चर है आज का, संभालना है बहुत अच्छे से, ठीक है?
जी सर, जी सर।
जो वीडियो है वो यूट्यूब का आ गया होगा आपके पास।
हाँ सर, आगे।
ठीक है, अगर वो परमिट करते हैं तो आप उसको चला दीजिएगा। ठीक
जी
है।
सर। जी सर।
और डॉक्टर रेवांगनी को कोहोस्ट बनाइए। डॉक्टर रेवांगनी को कोहोस्ट बनाइए। ठीक है, ठीक है।
चाहिए मैम, आप एक बार प्लीज वीडियो ऑडियो चेक कर लीजिए। उस टाइम तो चल रहा था जब चेक।
अजय को देखिए, अजय ने ज्वाइन किया है?
अभी नहीं ज्वाइन किया सर।
अच्छा, ठीक है, ठीक है।
हाँ, मेरी आवाज आ रही है और वीडियो ठीक है।
एक मिनट, एक सेकंड, एक बार एक दो बार बोलो, एक बार वही नमस्कार आदाब सत श्री अकाल ऐसे करके बोलो जरा, जो है।
गुड इवनिंग, नमस्ते, सत श्री अकाल एंड आदाब टू एवरीवन प्रेजेंट हियर। आ
एक
रही है
बार
आवाज?
बॉडी रिएक्शंस दिखाइए, एक बॉडी रिएक्शंस दिखाइए।
हाँ।
बॉडी एक्शंस दिखाइए।
गुड इवनिंग, नमस्ते, सत श्री अकाल एंड आदाब टू एवरीवन प्रेजेंट हियर।
गुड, 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 वेरी गुड, वेरी
ठीक
गुड।
है,
इसको
ठीक
मेंटेन रखना है, इसको, ठीक है?
जी सर।
ठीक है।
गुड इवनिंग सर।
हाँ, नमस्कार मैडम, जय श्री राम।
जय श्री राम सर। रोहित जी।
यस मैम।
गुड इवनिंग सर। गुड इवनिंग सर।
सर नमस्कार, वेलकम सर।
And good evening. Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, we'll start the session within 5 minutes, sir. Participants are
No
joining, sir.
problem. Take your time. Take your time.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
थैंक यू सर।
Sir, last time I had the opportunity to meet you during your expert lecture at Agronomy Congress as well as IRI.
Oh, thank you. So you were there at the IRI this month?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was there.
Yeah, last month. Yeah, 29th. Yeah,
As well
28th.
as in Agronomy Congress, sir. Agronomy
Yeah.
Congress.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
लंच भी किया था सर हमने, और वाइस चांसलर एके सिंह झांसी।
I know the photo. You then posted it on the LinkedIn.
यस
हाँ, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir.
Yeah, both of you. Thank you, Pragati, and thank you, Ankur.
थैंक यू
Say
सर।
hello
जी,
to
थैंक
them.
यू, नमस्कार।
Say hello. We are going to do some work. Say.
हाय।
Yeah. All right.
हेलो।
Say back to them. We are going to do some work. Okay? Good girl. You go and do your work. I'm talking to Dr. Pragati Srivastava and Dr. Ankur Sharma. No, I can't because I have to. There'll be a lot of people.
सर, योर ग्रैंडडॉटर सर, ग्रैंडडॉटर।
Yeah, granddaughter. My daughter's daughter for 4 year, 3 months.
नाइस।
Oh, 4 year, 3 months. Not completed even 5 years.
Not yet, not yet. In October, she will complete 5 years.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So more than 100 participants have joined so far.
Oh, that's good. So mostly by online, right? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you both are based in Delhi?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Headquarter in Delhi only, sir.
Where is your
ICR building 3392.
So in the ICR complex itself,
ICR
Yes,
complex
sir.
itself.
Yes, sir.
the Krishi Bhavan.
Yes.
No, sir.
behind.
Pusa campus.
Pusa
Pusa campus.
campus.
So
Pusa
that's
campus.
where all the international centers and the NAS complex. You mean NAS complex?
Yes,
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 sir.
sir. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, yes.
So how long you have been working in this organization? How long this has been going on?
5 to 6 years, sir.
Ah, right, right.
Hmm.
So you have a lot of clients, or how is that operates?
Definitely, sir. 40 to 50 universities in collaboration or MOUs.
MOUs.
Ah.
And how many of you are working in this organization?
100. How many, sir? I think 115 plus candidates associated with this.
Wow.
600
Wow.
plus life members. 1,000 plus
Wow.
annual members.
Wow.
30 plus
That's good.
chapter. 30 plus faculty chapters.
Yeah, yeah.
Offices in I think 13 plus states.
Very good. And how is the
Yes, sir.
funding for this? Where is it coming from?
Fundings are like organizing such type of academic events or approaching through NABARD, Niti Aayog, DST, DBT, private companies, private partners.
So you apply for projects and funding.
Yes, like Upkar situated in Lucknow, Upkar,
Mhm.
Uttar Pradesh Council of Agriculture. These are the funding organizations.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm. That's great.
Sir, blessings only, sir. Your blessings.
No, that's good. That's great. Now I'll catch up with you next time when I'm in Delhi.
Sure, sir.
Definitely, sir. I will be there, sir. Definitely, sir.
Mm-mm-mm.
Sir, going to organize, sir, one summer school as well as one international conference or international year of women's. So, sir, I will
At the
request you for the
International Year
knowledge
of the
partner of your
Women, there was a
institute.
conference organized by TAS, remember? Just
Yes, sir.
Yes,
in
sir.
March.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
I
sir.
was
Yes,
there
sir.
only, sir.
So
I
we
was
were
there.
there.
Huh.
Yeah, I sort of arranged one person from here, but she could not make it for the
Okay.
conference.
Dr. Paroda was the Dr. Paroda was the organizer.
Yes, sir.
Exactly, exactly.
I also delivered one lecture in women empowerment, sir.
Okay, very good,
Yes.
very good.
And sir,
Good
we are
initiative.
also going to organize one international conference in Chandigarh on the occasion
Chandigarh.
of International Year of Women. So, sir, I
Oh,
request you to kindly join your organization as a knowledge partner.
Let us see. Let us see. I will send us the details. Then I'll send to the farmer groups. We have a big farmer group organization,
Okay,
and that's
sir.
what I was
Definitely,
trying
sir.
to send a
Definitely.
lady, but she could not make it. She had to pull out
I
last
will
minute.
request. I will request for your kind consent for join as knowledge partner, or if possible, kindly deliver one lecture either in offline or online mode,
Okay.
as per
Okay. We can.
circumstances permit.
Sure. Sure.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, 160, 170 plus participants joined in Zoom. I think 200 plus joined through YouTube. So I think 350 plus candidate joins.
Already
So
you have
if
got
your kind self
145
permit,
now.
then can I start, sir? If your kind self permit.
Now, whenever you're ready, I'm ready.
Okay, Miss Saida, are you getting my voice?
Yes, sir.
Within 30 seconds, we will start.
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Miss Saida from Squashed Kashmir is the moderator of today's program, sir.
Wow, that's great.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, nice.
She is from Squashed Kashmir, sir.
Oh, okay. Fantastic. That's a good university, right?
Yes, definitely,
Yes, sir,
sir.
that is.
Good university.
Now
Located
they
in
were
Srinagar, sir.
here. Yeah, they were here. I think last year there were some of the animal production dean and others were in my university for a visit.
Dr. Nazir Ahmed Ganai is the present vice chancellor over there.
I know him. I have met him a couple of occasions.
Okay. Miss Saida, please start.
Good evening, namaste, sat sri akal, and adab to everyone present here today. On behalf of the Agriculture Valley Research Foundation, it is my immense pleasure to welcome all the distinguished guests respected academicians, researchers, students, and participants that have joined us today for this special online expert lecture on the occasion of International Day for Biological Diversity. I'm Saida Nahal Zahra, Technical Secretary to the founder of AWRF, and I feel truly honored to be your coordinator and host for this remarkable session. Today's lecture revolves around a theme that is not just globally relevant, but also deeply connected to the future of humanity, and that is crop diversification for improving human health and environmental sustainability. We are exceptionally privileged to have with us an internationally acclaimed scientist, researcher, educator, and visionary academician, Professor Kadambodh H.M. Siddiqui from the University of Western Australia. Professor Siddiqui is globally recognized for his extraordinary contributions to agriculture, food security, sustainable cropping systems, climate resilient farming, and much more. His work has significantly influenced the international agriculture research and policy, especially in the areas of neglected and underutilized crops, nutritional security, and sustainable food systems. His research strongly emphasizes how crop diversification and future smart foods can help combat malnutrition, strengthen climate resilience, and create healthier and more sustainable communities worldwide. He has also co-edited the influential publication Neglected and Underutilized Crops, Future Smart Food, which highlights innovative pathways towards addressing hunger, malnutrition, and environmental challenges through sustainable agriculture. Ladies and gentlemen, having such a globally respected scholar among us today is truly an honor and a moment of great inspiration for all of us. I am certain that his valuable insights and vast experiences will leave us enlightened and motivated towards building a more sustainable agricultural future. So, without any further ado, it is my proud privilege to invite and request our esteemed speaker, Professor Kadambodh H.M. Siddiqui sir, to kindly take over this session and share his invaluable thoughts with us today. Sir, if you would, the virtual platform is all yours. Thank you.
So thank you, Saida Nahal, for that kind introduction. And I would also like to thank Dr. Ankur Sharma and Dr. Prakati for this kind invitation. I have met them previously, Dr. Prakati Srivastava and Dr. Ankur Sharma. So what I will do is I will now try to share my PowerPoint. Hope you have given me the permission for that.
Yes, sir.
So,
Rohit, please
yeah.
help,
Sure,
sir.
sir. Sure.
So let me just pull that out. It won't take long. And hopefully you can see the PowerPoint in a PowerPoint mode. Can you?
Yes, sir.
It's all good, clear, right?
Yes, sir.
Perfectly visible and audible, sir.
Very good. So first of all, I would like to congratulate you, the organizers, to choose a topic on International Day of the Biological Diversity. So when people talk about biodiversity, many people think that agriculture is not contributing to the biodiversity. So I think that is a wrong perception. I'm not saying it is true, it's a perception. And a lot of the environmental scientists think that agriculture is not good, but of course, we all have to eat at least 2, 3, sometimes 4, 5 meals per day, and we have to have agriculture and food production system. So the question then is that can we look at a diversified cropping system or farming system which can then enhance the biodiversity on the landscape? So I hope you can see my second slide because I'm just conscious that it is okay. Is it okay, Ankur?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes.
Very
Sir.
good.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
I'll not
Yes,
talk-
sir.
Yeah, sometimes it's very hard remotely. So the outline of my presentation is a background. I'll give a bit of background about my university, particularly those who are not familiar with Australia and where we are located. Then I'll straight away go to global hunger and malnutrition. This is a serious problem. We thought we have solved that, but it is getting worse, especially now, post-COVID and the global unrest or geopolitical situation. Then we also have on the other side prevalence of unhealthy diets. These are all partly due to the overproduction of crops and people's capacity to buy wrong food and eat wrong things. Then we will look at challenges facing food security and nutrition, and what is the role of diversified food system. And in this context, I'll give some interesting studies we have done on diversified cropping system benefits. What are the benefits? Whether there is any real benefits in terms of the system benefit. Then I'll draw some conclusion and recommendations. So this is the beautiful city of Perth, the capital of Western Australia. And all the red roof buildings are my university, beautiful university, University of Western Australia. And you can see on the far here, a large national park within the middle of the city, 650 hectares. And that's one of the largest national parks in anywhere in the world. And then you can see the city of Perth and the beautiful Swan River. My department, my institute is just closely located to the city. So wonderful, probably one of the best beautiful campuses on earth. I have visited many parts of the world, and that's an important aspect of any university. If you have a beautiful environment, and then students can learn things much better than having simply buildings and bricks and mortars. The University of Western Australia is globally reputed. It's an internationally recognized university. We have started in 1911, so that's about 115, 16 years old. The most important thing is that it's not only the basic science, but we also have got applied aspects, in my case, connecting with the farmers and farmer groups, because a lot of our research dollars is coming from the government and also for the farmers. In Australia, we have 39 universities. Of that, 8 universities leads the pack in terms of what we call research-intensive universities. One thing I want to say is that Australia doesn't have any agricultural universities. That may surprise you. It surprised me when I first came here way back in 1981 to do my PhD studies at the university. So being a top agricultural country in terms of production and export, you may think that why you don't have an agriculture university. So the reason is that if you have an agriculture university, you become inbreeding and you don't bring other parts of the science into it. So in my university, for example, we have got medicine, engineering, mathematics, physics, music, arts, humanities, social science, business, law, and so on. So agriculture is only one part of the university. So that helps the student to learn from different parts, because agriculture has got a lot of problems. Whether it is the climate change, where is the food security, we need science and both social science and core science from different parts of the world, parts of the campus. We have got Nobel Prize in 2005. Some of you may have seen this presentation. This is Professor Barry Marshall, who is a graduate, medical graduate. He just recently retired, but he's an emeritus professor. And he's the man who demonstrated that stomach ulcer is caused by a bacteria called Helicobacter pylori. Prior to that, no one believed him. So he then started drinking that cocktail and showed the symptoms, and he treated with antibiotics. Today, Marshall's test is available. I recommend all of you, many of you, to go and make a simple test and find out, because it's very much prevalent in India and the subcontinent, many other places, from mother to the child, and the contamination from sanitary and so on. So it is important to do that. So he's a very good friend of mine. We have traveled many parts of the world. The institute I'm leading, I won't say too much about it. The 2025 annual report will be out in July, but anyone who is interested can go and Google and look at what kind of research teaching we undertake in this university. We also look at the ranking. Ranking is very important. One of the ranking we follow is academic ranking of world universities, which is based on metrics, pure metrics, not about survey. and we are a small group, number 1 in Australia, number 13 in the world. 2026 ranking has been not out. This is very important. You know, none of the Indian universities are at all in any of this ranking, including Indian Agriculture Research Institute and many. So what it shows is that there are a lot is happening in India, perhaps not in the right way. And we are working with IRI to develop a strategy to become internationally known. This is quite important for India to have some of these universities to be internationally ranked. In order to do that, we need to look at structural changes and a number of other things, including high caliber teachers, students, and at the right direction. My university has had collaboration, particularly in agriculture and other areas over the years, but we just started a campus, 2 campuses, one in Mumbai and one in Chennai. To begin with, we will look at basically data science, computer science, and commerce and economics. No immediate plan to start anything in agriculture, and the first cohort will start in September. And as you know, that Government of India is encouraging. There are 15 universities now, international universities started campuses. So that's good news for the students in India, but also students can come and study otherwise to our main campus in Australia. So Chennai and Mumbai, staff recruitment is already, so we are appointing people from India in that campus. Our people will also travel there. Applications have started, and so we're looking forward for that exciting news there. Now coming to our problem today, food security and nutrition security key facts. So the rise in hunger after COVID, almost 152 million people more became hungry and malnourished since COVID. Now with the issues such as Ukraine-Russian war, Iran, Israel, and US war is also giving a lot of problems in relation to energy supply, fertilizer cost, transportation. On the top of that, we have major issue, the climate change is affecting recently. In India, you had severe hot weather, which affected some of the Rabi crops. The other issue is the prevalence of undernourishment is happening. Most of undernourishment people in Asia and Africa, including in India, despite the food security, there's a lot of issues in India. The gender gap in food security is still there. So when there is food, the women supply the food to the men, and so women is a lot affected in this. So slightly higher for women than men, with the largest difference found in Latin America and the Caribbeans. Dietary energy supply, definitely we have improved because we are getting a lot of calories from crops like rice, wheat, and maize. But in Africa, this improvement haven't occurred. So in Asia, for example, in India, if you look at the Green Revolution as clearly helped us to move from hunger and plenty of grains and starchy food available. Obesity, we never talk about obesity, and that is also happening partly because of the eating habit and abundant availability of food and a lack of exercise, etc. So it's not just the stunting and wasting, but also obesity is happening. So this graph shows the number of food groups with insufficient national production. So the darker means it's worst, 0 is lighter. So you can see that so India is still there, insufficient food in certain pockets and regions. But of course, Africa is the worst, and parts of South America, and also in the Asia Pacific region. If you look at the share of the population who cannot afford a healthy diet, this is the data 2017-2020, but it illustrates a country like Mongolia, its percentage of the population is just under 60. It hasn't declined much. China, on the other hand, very comparable in terms of population with India. China has done extremely well. If you look at that, it is around 18%. Then you look at Japan, of course, pretty low, Republic of Korea. So although Korea doesn't grow a lot of food, they still have the capacity to buy and so on. So the government policy can make a difference. So we need to keep an eye on that. Southeast Asia, LAVO PDR is sitting on 80%. Indonesia, a large country, is also quite high. Philippines and Myanmar has gone backwards with the regime change. Vietnam has done extremely well, considering it is destroyed by US, and since then they have gone quite well in relation to government, policy, research, development, capacity building, etc. Thailand is a wonderful example where the king had a visionary approach in order to diversify their diet. As a result, Thailand is looking good. Malaysia is also looking good. So it's just not about agriculture alone. It is the government policy. It is the other wealth available, etc. Now, the situation, what we call stunting. Stunting is basically height and weight, and wasting is weight and height. So, in other words, according to the age, the children is not reaching the sufficient height or weight. So, unfortunately, the situation in India is pretty bad, sitting around 32%, and of course, Africa in the range of some parts of Sub-Saharan Africa, Eastern Africa, Middle Africa, 32%. So this is really sad, because the children of that group below 5 are malnourished, and they will never develop their cognitive development, and they will never complete their primary or even secondary and high school, and the vicious cycle continues. This is of a concern to many countries, particularly with India. And if you look at the wasting, again, India is quite high there, and parts of Africa and so on. So this is the availability of food at an affordable price, which has got nutrition, particularly micronutrients and so on. We'll talk about that later. And this is very important. When we talk about Vikasit Bharat, when we talk about any country, we must look after our children. There are ways and means which we can do that. I'm sure that government of India and state governments are doing a wonderful job. Having said that, the problem has not gone away. So in summary, there are 500 million people in the world affected by hunger. In 21, that number has increased again. And 1/3 of that, 278 million, is in Africa, but also significant numbers in Asia and some in Oceania. Now, before we going further, it's important, what is a food system? A lot of students need to learn that. A food system consists of all elements. It's not just the food alone, the environment, the people, the inputs, the process, the infrastructures, and the institutions, and the activities that relate to the production, processing, distribution, marketing, preparation, and consumption of food. Of course, what is the outcome of these activities? Namely, nutrition, health status, socioeconomic growth, equity, and environmental sustainability. What a wonderful definition. I think that's what we need to teach at the undergraduate and postgraduate level. And of course, we are all specializing in various areas, but we need to have a holistic approach in order to achieve what we want to achieve. Hope these graphs are still good. If you look at the left-hand side, my left-hand side, globally, the top red bar, low intake of nuts, whole grains, legumes, fruits, vegetables, etc. So what we're seeing is that consumption of starchy food, and also in some countries, red meat. And as you come down to the graph, the consumption of the nuts, whole grains, legumes, fruits and vegetables is not really moved into the 100 mark, the dotted line. So a lot of the unhealthy food is above the dotted line. So that's not really good. On my right-hand side, deficiencies in vitamin A, iron, iodine, and other micronutrients are widely persisted. So it got to global, then all the way to Africa. And the little graphs are children under 5, vitamin A, pregnant women, then iron deficiency, again preschool age children, pregnant women, and iodine, for example, deficiency. So when you take Europe, Europe has got significant iodine deficiency there. And in general, there's quite a lot of imbalance, and that's causing what we call hidden hunger and so on. Now, you may ask the question, what is the impact from food production, the sustainable boundaries of food production? This is basically what is the footprint of that? So I have got staples and legumes, sugar, nuts and oilseeds, vegetables, etc. So the main thing is that in 2010, impacts of greenhouse gas emission with the nitrogen application, phosphorus application, increase the boundaries. So you got things like greenhouse gas emission, cropland use, freshwater use, nitrogen use, and phosphorus use. So most cases it's already exceeded the boundaries. So in other words, without any mitigation measures, all boundaries will cross until 2050. So this is not very good as well. So we want to produce more food, but we want to look at the environmental footprint. So these are some of the issues we need to look at it. So today, if you look at the global food supply, rely largely by few crops: wheat, rice, maize. Then we got to potato as a starchy food. There is more recent one, soybean consumption in terms of, in India it is oil, but elsewhere it is tofu and other things, sunflower oil, palm oil, meat and dairy is increasing, particularly dairy in India, but not necessarily meat. Fish consumption is also there, but availability is getting less and less. So the national food supplies globally have become increasingly similar in composition. So if you look at the graph, the slope change in relative abundance of calories and the global change in contribution of each crop from 1961 to 2009. So on the right-hand side, we can see that increasing share of soybean, palm oil, wheat, rice, maize, etc. But if you look at the left-hand side, which is going negative, decreasing share of sorghum, millet, other cereals and beans, etc., which is not good. So we want to have, of course, we want to have the so-called starchy food and so on, but we want to have the increased consumption of some of the millets, other cereals, beans, etc. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the production of the food also produces greenhouse gas emissions. So if you take kilogram carbon dioxide equivalent per 100 grams of protein. So we converted that into protein. So in the case of beef herd, it is the highest. And lamb and mutton, next. Crustaceans, when farmed, it is high. Dairy, cheese, pork, fish, poultry. As you come down to soybean, tofu, peanut, other pulses, peas, etc., very low. So this is another one. Inclusion of some of these crops in the system will help us to reduce the greenhouse gas, which I will talk later on. Now let us look at two things. One is high consumption of harmful food. This is also happening when income goes up, particularly in developing countries, developing and fast developing countries, processed meat, red meat, trans fatty acids, sugars, which is used in sweetening beverages, lot of soft drinks I see in places like India. People then put a lot of salt and sodium and high starch diet. Clearly, this is not recommended. On my right-hand side, low consumption of what we call protective food at the recommended level. Fruits, vegetables, beans, consumption is not as high, although I must acknowledge that consumption of vegetables and fruits have increased both in China, India, and so on. But the problem is this unhealthy diet, unbalanced diet leads to malnutrition, risk of chronic diseases, particularly cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, stunted children, and obesity. So You know, Lancet, which is one of the famous medical journals, Eat Lancet reference intake levels by GDP qualities is shown here. All 5 food groups are included, including fruit, pulses, nuts, animal source, and starchy staples, etc. So one of the problem with the low-income countries, the first graph, the consumption is generally low, good ones, but also to some extent they don't have money to buy all this salty and packaged food. But as the income goes up, which is the case with India, the middle class and upper middle class start consuming huge amount of what they call the processed food, etc., which is bad already in high-income countries. But high-income countries, through education and other programs, a lot of us are very conscious about what we eat today. So the consumption of unhealthy food, I mentioned, and processed food. So if you look at this graph, deep fried food on the first one, salty packaged snacks, sugar sweetened soft drinks, sweet food, processed meat, and last one is unprocessed red meat. And you just take, for example, here, Indonesia. Look at that, their income goes, they keep on eating a lot more deep fried food. I'm sure that it is the case with India. Salty food is very high. Sugar and sweetened probably more high in India. I don't have the data here. So this is another problem. As the income goes, we start consuming unhealthy food, especially the advertisement in the televisions and the supermarkets, and the young children are hooked into it. So to summarize some of these things, one, agriculture production relies on a few staple crops, as I mentioned, with the high input requirements, as you had in the Green Revolution era in rice and wheat production, making farming more vulnerable to environmental shocks with a negative consequence for ecosystem, food diversity, and health. Because if you look at the northern Indo-Gangetic plains, maybe 1 or 2 wheat varieties or rice varieties dominate. So if you have a system breakdown, everything get affected. So in other words, there's less diversity, more homogeneity in the cropping system in many countries. Limited diversity in the food system, including consumption, leading to unbalanced diets and unhealthy malnutrition. So one solution, I'm not saying whole solution, is essential to diversify the food system for a balanced diet and enhanced adaptation to climate change. So that's the conclusion I make there. Now, what are the major global challenges to enhance food security and nutrition? So we all know that there is huge amount of environmental degradation continues due to unsustainable use of already limited resources. Water, for example, in India, water is a major natural resource under threat, depletion, pollution, and competition from industry and domestic consumption. Land and biodiversity, this is a topic of biodiversity. Clearly, the biodiversity on the landscape is lost in all parts of the world, including Australia, India, China, and other places. And we have the pressure. We don't have any new land, and particularly countries like India, where you won't have any new land. So we have to produce more food with less resources. Closing with the coping with serious climate change implication. I think I can give a talk some other stage. I think I gave a talk in IRI late last month, that climate change is going to be the major threat for all of us in years to come. The other one is lack of economic and social development in rural areas. India, still 50% of the population depend upon agriculture, and most of the economic development is happening in major cities, what we call mega cities of the world. So this is a big issue. People mass migration from the villages, rural areas to big cities, which is imbalanced at the moment. High birth rate is still continuing. Of course, India has now taken over China in relation to total population, although there are variabilities within India, different states, and that's an issue. And North Africa and other regions have got an average of 1.9. So, and the developing countries also got some issues. And more importantly, I think we know that political unrest, this is the biggest killer, man-made. Even a single person like a US president can create such a stress in the world. And all of us, including you in India, including we in Australia, is suffering because what we call political unrest, wars, civil conflict, which exacerbate these challenges and contribute to the increased poverty, hunger, malnutrition. When you have this kind of thing, rich people and middle class to some extent can absorb. Who is going to be affected? It is the poor people. It is the people who doesn't have the livelihood. They are affected the most. So that's something beyond agriculture, but it is a serious matter. We think that, oh, okay, if the Iran-Iraq war is finished, something will be stopped. No, we had the Ukraine-Russian. Then comes this one. There will be another one. So this is something which the global community, global leaders has to think about it and need stability globally. Otherwise, no matter how much food we produce, how much we do, it's not going to go away. So the challenges facing food system limiting our capacity to address hunger and malnutrition. So first thing is we definitely need to produce more food, whether 70 or 50% to meet the 9.8 billion people by 2050 is a reality. The other thing we were depending upon, and I know that India also put a lot of efforts into genetics and breeding and CRISPR technology, etc. They are all good. But unfortunately, the genetic improvement is reaching a plateau. And we are not really seeing rice, maize, and wheat that 1%. In fact, it is below 1% per annum. So even with 1% growth, it is going to be pretty tough. Then we know that the nutrition gap is widening. A country like India, which had significant production increase in staple crops, but if you look at the nutrition gap, has not been gone away. So we still have got stunted and wasted children, as I showed you. Some people may argue with me about the definition, but no matter what we say, there is people who cannot afford go to the doctors and get supplementary, etc. They need to get it from the whole food they consume. Otherwise, they will be left behind. So basically, I'm giving a pitch that essential to diversify food system for healthy diets to eliminate or reduce malnutrition. So in 21, we put this paper. It's in Nature Plants, what we call rediscovering Asia's forgotten crops to fight chronic hidden hunger. Basically, what we're saying is that the Zero Hunger Initiative is a promising approach to help increase access to nutrition. However, it faces substantial challenges such as lack of farmer willingness to switch crops and adequate government support for implementation. Countries such as Nepal are doing. So basically what we're saying is that nutritious, what I call neglected crops, I would rather call it as future smart crops, domesticated since ancient times, but mostly forgotten or underutilized today. These crops include cereals, roots, nuts, pulses, fruits, vegetables. More importantly, they are adapted to their land, resilient to environmental challenges. I'll show a bit of data later, rich in micronutrient. So the change in the current modern agriculture, monoculture, has occurred, but we need to have a system to diversify cropping portfolios that use these forgotten crops or future smart crop, how we can fit into a cropping system. And anyone can download. If any problem, let me know. I'm happy to send a copy of that paper. So sometimes back, I think 2018-19, under the auspices of FAO, we convened a workshop in Thailand, got some 25 countries come together and asked each country to prioritize some so-called future smart food crops. So can be classified into cereals, roots and tubers, pulses, fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds and spices, which in certain countries are neglected, in some other countries may not be. So you will not have one fit for all. So just an example is shown here. One is a foxtail millet. It is the Citeria italica, known as Panicum italicum. Then on the right, we have got the drumstick, Moringa oleifera. Then elephant foot yam, Amorphalis, Phophallus, and then you got the taro. All these are beautiful stuff, very nutritious, and once upon a time, they dominated the landscape, and people used to have that at least 2 or 3 times in their diet. And the modern, it's all gone away. Now there is some interest coming, but they are all nutritionally dense. For example, if you take taro has got significant ability to tolerate water logging, but at the same time, when it comes to drought, it can tolerate. And its leaves and stems are used, I know, in West Bengal and parts of Odisha and parts of South India. And millet, very much drought tolerant. I'll talk about that. And things like elephant foot yam has got a huge amount of potassium and other nutrients, and they are also very much resilient to climate change. And I don't need to educate you from India why millets, nutritious, feed fodder, less water consumption, grow faster, putting less stress on the environment, generally low insect pests and diseases, and can be grown on marginal lands, and complete food and nutritional security and income to the farmers. And it's not one type of millet. Some from sorghum to pearl millet to finger millet, foxtail millet, and there's a number of millets. And depending upon the agroecological zone, it can be grown almost all parts of India and many other parts. So this is just a top 10 millet producing states of India. And again, you can see that, Bajra and pearl millet in Rajasthan, and Bajra and pearl millet in Gujarat, and then southern part of India, North Kashmir, everywhere. So this is wonderful to see that ragi, finger millet, and all that can be produced, and there's quite a lot of demand for that kind of food. And of course, our Honorable Prime Minister promoted that, and then United Nations taken that as the International Year of Millets in 2023, and India has taken a huge stride in that, and there's quite a lot of things happening with ICR, Indian Institute of Millet Research in Hyderabad, and so on. So it's not only the millet, we must not forget about the underutilized vegetables and fruit. So this is something which we need to put a lot of effort, a lot of agriculture research sometimes focus on the cereals and grains. India has done extremely well in terms of vegetables and fruit. They are rich in macro and micronutrients, including iron, zinc, magnesium, selenium, and calcium. Then, of course, rich in vitamins like carotenoids, vitamin B complex, C and K, antioxidants and fibers essential to a healthy diet. So United Nations again declared 2021 as the International Year of the Fruits and Vegetables. And I think this is something where India has got already upper lead. But the question then is that value adding, transportation, storage, spoilage, and all these are some of the issues. The production either doesn't reach properly, or after some time under the hot weather, their quality deteriorates. You heard about quinoa. Quinoa is an ancient crop from Andean regions, and now even countries like India, it is adopted. It is what we call a complete protein and cereal, and high in lysine to protect against cold sores, and wonderful crop, and there is quite a lot of interest all over the world in that crop. Pulses, I was fortunate to be the ambassador for the International Year of the Pulses by United Nations. India is a home of pulses, but still your gap is widening. There's a lot more demand. It's no more a poor man's meat, and the prices have gone up again. The government of India is looking, but there should be real strategies to enhance its production. There's no question about demand. As a result, you are importing even pulses from places like Australia and Canada and Myanmar. Again, no more actually poor man's meat, rich in low-fat protein. This is the good quality, complementary amino acid profiles, micronutrient-rich, high-quality carbohydrates. That's good for your gut health. And colon cancer and things can be reduced, whereas if you consume atta and maize and other flours too much, they are not really good for your hindgut and dietary fiber. More importantly, we all know that the legumes fix nitrogen. Earlier, we were not concerned because we can buy bag fertilizer. Now this is going to go a big difficulty. So the inclusion of the legumes in the cropping farming system is even more important to get that biological nitrogen, and also other benefits like phosphorus mobilization and so on. The end result is that if you look at this graph, the negative carbon footprint when you include a legume in the rotation, because you're saving significant amount. And the soil carbon, the deco of the nodules, and when you have more nitrogen, the bacteria is happy, there is more biological activity, so the entire soil organic carbon is improved and so on. So we did a perspective paper way back in 2016 saying that neglecting legumes has compromised human health and sustainable food production. That is the fact. So if you look at the investment in pulse RD&E globally at that time was very low, only 175 million per annum in 13 pulse crop. But if you take rice, wheat and maize, there'll be billions of dollars. I'm not saying don't invest in wheat and rice and maize, but it's time for us to look at the balance. Countries like India, you have your own Indian Institute of Pulse Research, Kanpur, which is quite unique. There's no other such institutions in the world, but they need to be adequately funded. We need to attract clever people to work and see what we can do to enhance the production and productivity of pulses, which will lead to increased consumption and a healthy landscape. I'll show you an example. So the question then, a lot of people, when I give this talk, they say that, oh, we cannot replace rice, wheat, and maize. I'm not asking to do that. How do we integrate some of these crops in the system while reducing the environmental footprint? This is a paper we published in Proceedings of the National Academy of Science, United States, PNAS, in 2021. Basically, what we're saying here is that we developed an integrated cropping system that incorporates 4 key elements. Number 1, intensified cropping through relay planting, intercropping, or mixed cropping. I'll elaborate that later. Second, within the field strip rotation. So you still can have a field where you can have strips of various kinds of crops and rotation. Soil mulching with available means such as straw. And number 4 is no-till or reduced tillage. So what we did, we conducted 16 field experiments conducted with a wide range of crops inputs over 12 consecutive years, 2006 to 17 in China. And what it is we find? The integrated system with intercropping generates significant synergies. What are those synergies? Increasing annual crop yields by 16 to 49, 50% more. Farm net returns, when we calculated, increased by 39% and decreased the environmental footprint by 17% when compared with the traditional monoculture cropping. So what did we conclude? We concluded that particularly with smallholder farmers, can achieve the dual goal of growing more food and lowering the environmental footprint by adopting integrated farming system, which uses some of the crops we mentioned earlier. A wonderful study. And this is an example where one of our trial sites in Gansu province in the northwest of China, where the land is available. What we have done here is that peas, Pisum sativum, dried peas, was sown in spring because winter is very, very harsh. And you can see them flowering. As the summer comes in, we planted the maize in strip crops. So it's not one row, because it becomes very difficult for mechanization, harvesting, and so on. So these are all planted by machine. This will be harvested by machine. And the system benefit is there. The legume nitrogen is still available to your maize crop and so on. So that's a wonderful example how intercropping has been practiced in India, but the problem has been we were looking at 1 row or 2 row. That's not good enough. This is the way, because labor is not available. You need to look at the mechanized, small mechanization here. Now, I know this is a very busy graph, but I'm going to be very straightforward and show you only what is required. So if you focus on graph A, which is grain yield tons per hectare, and on the x-axis, we have got pea, maize, wheat, maize. Then we have got mono, relay, etc. So if you go back to the graph A, you can see that from mono to relay, we have increased the total yield clearly. Then if you look at the graph D, which is the carbon footprint, that is the footprint per yield, kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalent per ton of grain. We calculated that based on the fertilizer used and many other measurements. And you can see that from mono to relay, there is a reduction in carbon footprint. So that's really not a rocket science, very simple technology to show that. That's why it was accepted and published in PNAS. There's a lot of data. I don't think I will go through that. The paper is available. This is some work I did with one of my former students. He's a professor now, Xiaoliang Qin in Northwest Agriculture Forestry University. We showed that cultivar mixture. So you take, for example, rice. You take a mixture of rice varieties, or you take wheat, can increase yield, temporal yield stability. So when we looked at we found that overall mixing of cultivars increased crop yield within the same species about 3.84%. So how did the yield gains from mixing cultivars were highest in rice? We got 16%, followed by maize, about 8%, were lowest in the case of barley, 0.9, and we did not find any increase in sorghum yield. So overall, the mixing cultivars increased crop biomass. I'll show some data, leaf area index, photosynthetic rate, and water use efficiency. And more importantly, it decreased the disease incidence by 24 percentage. The reason is that if you have a monoculture of a particular variety, if a particular disease comes in, then you get a reduction in increased disease. So the cultivar mixtures were more effective in mitigating disease, increasing yields in studies performed at lower latitudes, higher mean annual temperatures, and so on. So if you look at here, this graph, you can see monoculture on the left axis, mixed on the right axis. The numbers are there. The first one is effect of yield size, effect of biomass, effect of harvest index, effect of grain protein. But if you look at the summary graph here, the graph E, 0 means no change. You can see the rice yield increased in the mixtures, maize yield increased, soybean increased, wheat increased, triticale increased, barley increased, sorghum only slight increase. So in summary, having a mixture of cultivars within the species have got number of synergetic effects. So graph A shows that differences in percentage, 0 means no change, photosynthesis, PN increased, leaf area increased, water use efficiency increased. So there is a good correlation between difference in water use efficiency between monoculture and mixture versus yield. Again, differences in net photosynthesis and yield, then leaf area index and yield. So there is a physiological basis by which the mixtures are able to cope up with a different scenario. Now moving on, we conducted a 6-year diversifying crop rotation in the North China Plain. So what we have done is that in the North China Plain, the current cereal monoculture, largely because of the Green Revolution plus a push by the researchers and extension, they grow wheat either in winter, they come back with maize. So a lot of the cash crops like sweet potato, peanut and soybeans simply wiped out of the system. And this is happening in your Indo-Gangetic plains, in your Punjab, in your Haryana rice wheat system, if you compare with that. So what we have found is that you finish the drop. Sorry. So what we found that diversified rotation increases equivalent yield by 38%. More importantly, it reduced the nitrous oxide emission by 39% and improved the system greenhouse gas balance by 88%. So including legumes such as soybean and peanut stimulate soil microbial activities. I'll show some data. increased soil organic carbon stocks by 8% and enhanced our soil health index by 45%. So we concluded that to the government of China that in the North China Plain, if we adopt a diversified system, increase cereal productivity also by 32% when wheat, maize, fallow alternative crop in rotation, and farmer income by 20%. So this is an example which provides a sustainable food production practices, emphasizing a significance of crop diversification for long-term agricultural resilience and soil health. And that's the topic of you today. You want to have the biological diversity. And we were able to publish that in the prestigious journal, Nature Communication. So it's basically shown here on the left-hand side, intensified cereal monoculture, whether it is in India or China. You need more irrigation, more fertilizer, more transport cost, and field operation. On the other hand, a diversified rotation reduces the irrigation and fertilization, greenhouse gas emission, and economic benefits and net income. And if you look at the soil, in terms of nodulation, soil organic carbon, microbial activity, all increased. I'll show you quickly some data so you will believe what I'm saying. So our aim is a socio-economic and environmental benefit. Again, it's not a rocket science. It needs the data from locally, it needs the government intervention, it needs the policy at the federal government and state government levels. So if you look at this graph, the graph A is equivalent yield tons per hectare, and the first graph, which is wheat, maize, and you can see in all cases our system has increased yield. Economic benefit, whether it's yuan or dollars per hectare, increased. Then protein yield, which is very important. When you have legumes and things, the protein yield increased. So very much looked at all the data. Annual cumulative nitrous oxide, if you look at the wheat, maize had the highest. In all other cases, we have the footprint has been reduced. Again, I won't go into the detail. Greenhouse gas emission, we have calculated. Again, we were able to show that the greenhouse gas emission was much higher in the case of wheat, maize rotation, and that's equivalent to your wheat, rice system in Punjab, Haryana, and many other parts of India. And what is new about our study is that we were also able to show diversified crop rotation improves soil microbial communities and function in that 6-year field experiment. So you can see the crop rotation, wheat, maize, sweet potato, wheat, maize, peanut to wheat, maize, and so on. So soybean and also spring maize and sweet sorghum and so on. So if you look at the graph B, you can see the crop diversity index, CDI, is the lowest if it is 1 with the wheat, maize. But in all cases, when we had a diversified intensity increased. So that's what we want, anything of 1.5. In some cases, we got up to 2. That's the kind of index we looking. Again, these are all complex data. What we are looking at the richness of bacteria, A, and the richness of fungal communities, B, and we have diversified crop protection, CD1 index, starting from 2016. And basically what we were able to show is that the richness increased with diversity as time goes. Again, proteobacteria, number of acetobacteria and all those things by DNA work we have been able to get from the soils. This one is again a microbial community participation at the phylum level and also the function level. And we can see that 2016, the size of these the circles are small. As we move into 2022, in the case of monocropping, it was less. With the case of other cropping, it has increased. Again, some solid data. So WM stands for wheat, maize, and as you move into other diversity. So the diversity increased, not only yield and so on, but also the diversity under the soil, which is the biodiversity. We again very much looked at the greenhouse gas emission, crop-specific emission factors of 8 upland crop based on 6-year field experiment. So you can see the sites in China. These are all actual field experiment. Many of them are in the farmer's field. Again, just to emphasize, winter wheat, summer maize, then we included all kinds of rotation there. But just to summarize, if you look at graph A, the greenhouse footprint is a kilogram carbon dioxide equivalent per hectare. You can see sweet potato is the lowest, and you can see winter wheat and summer maize is the highest. Again, different calculations are there. So in nutshell, the cereal system is not good for the planet. It's not good for the soil, and it may give a short-term cash return. It's not good for your health. Another thing we looked at is short-term plant mixtures alter soil organic carbon components and microbial network. This is where we looked at a number of things: T1, T2, T3, T4, and CK. CK stands for control. T1, 1 species, T2, 2 species, 3 species, and mixtures, and 4 species, etc. So you got different mixtures, and basically we were able to show that number of the microbial activity as a measure of amino acid sugar, lignin, MNC, dissolvable organic carbon, etc., all increased with the mixtures. Another one we looked is that it's not just the agriculture species. Look at the plant diversity that includes 3 species. What is the effect of greenhouse gas emission by increasing soil plant carbon storage in a terrestrial ecosystem on the land system? So what we did, we went and looked at data from number of studies done all over the world. Some studies looked at the greenhouse, some did soil carbon, plant carbon, greenhouse plus soil carbon, greenhouse gas and plant carbon, soil carbon and plant carbon, greenhouse gas, soil carbon, and plant carbon. Unfortunately, such studies is very low in India. Look at the amount of studies going on in China, in Europe, and even in Australia, it is not that much, quite a lot in North America and South America. And then we did a powerful tool, what we call meta-analysis. The students should study that. So in simple terms, you got parameters like carbon dioxide emission, nitrous oxide, methane uptake, soil organic carbon, plant carbon, and so on. 0 means no change. So if you look at the increased diversity, decreased nitrous oxide emission, methane emission, increased methane uptake, soil carbon increased, then plant carbon increased, and plant storage increased by simply having a plant species mixture on the landscape. Some of the work I mentioned is summarized, beautifully published in, I think, 20 chapters in a book edited by Dr. Xuan Li from FAO and myself, and that's available freely for downloading for you, what we call Future Smart Food. It's worth reading, including one chapter from West Bengal. Another one of my former postdocs, now is a professor in Sultan Qaboos University, Mohammed Farouk, and I edited a book on neglected and underutilized crop. We have some contributions from India in that book. So I'm coming towards the end of my talk, then we will have plenty of time for questions. So the approach for transformation of food system for healthy diet, food system, is just not about the production. The processing, labeling, and packaging is important, because at the end of the day, the consumers, the supermarket people, want to buy the product, and then only we'll have a market for the farmer. Then only the farmer will divert from rice and wheat into some of these crops. Distribution and marketing, consumption. Some of the examples of the intervention for healthy diets includes diversified nutrition-sensitive agriculture, labeling and regulation, and that's very important, advertising regulations, food-based dietary guidelines through the medical intervention, including ICMR and others. And that leads to healthy diet, reduction of diet-related non-communicable diseases, such as heart, cardiovascular, diabetics, including even dementia, can be delayed or reduced. And that will help having a healthy country and also reduce the medical bill of the government, federal or state government. That money is available for increased investment in education. In turn, will have a prosperous country. It is a multi-dimensional benefit. So if you look at the benefit of Asia's and Africa's local crops, food and nutritional security, resilient to climate change, I mentioned about crops like taro, millets and other crops, adaptation to harsh environment, low input agriculture, conserving, as your topic of today, biodiversity and culture diversity and heritage, because some of these crops have been traditionally utilized, but they simply gone away. So we need to bring them back for the good of it. Improving livelihoods and rural development, and clearly value adding and products such as marketed properly will. The city people are going to buy such products because they're all looking for some improvement in their health. So finally, it will lead to economic, social development. And we talk about the SDGs and the this kind of diversification has got effect on number 1, number 2, which is zero hunger, number 6, clean water, responsible consumption, a life on land, gender equity, climate action, and partnership for the goal. So by simply having such crops satisfying nearly 5 or 8 SDGs. So, Chair, my conclusion and recommendation, I think I have probably articulated well. The current food system need to be transformed to diversify by incorporating, in your case, India's crop foods to achieve healthy diets, reduce malnutrition, and contribute to food security and nutrition. There's no doubt that healthy diets will certainly provide more protein, macro and micronutrients, vitamins to reduce or eliminate malnutrition, hidden hunger, stunted children, and obesity. And what is needed is a targeted, traditional, underutilized local crops. They need special attention to diversify the food system, considering not only their nutritional and health benefits, but also their adaptation to harsh environments, marginal land, low input agriculture, which is very much in fashion back in India now, and resilience to climate change. We need to have an awareness of the policy makers on the importance of diversified food system. Because we were spending a lot of money and resources on 3-4 crops, we have too many plant breeders in some of these crops, whereas the neglected and underutilized crop probably doesn't have many breeders even in the Indian system. Income for small farmers, this is the mantra for the government of India and Prime Minister Modi ji, coping with the climate change implications and producing more food with less resources. By incorporating a diversified food system, the national food security and nutritional strategies and policies, and this is where I think the Director General ML Jadji is working very closely with ICMR. That's not enough. We need to do more work. I'm sure that is the way the future of agriculture and food and health should go. Encouraging and investing in scientific research, which is a major problem. Many of these crops doesn't have their own research going on. All the students want to work on rice, wheat, and maize because that's where the money is and that's where the job is. Private sectors, not much at all investing in traditional because they want to have quick profit. It's a vicious cycle. And consumers are not aware, although things like International Year of the Pulses, vegetables, International Year of the Millets, International Year of Quinoa, all have helped us to understand there's a lot of demand, not only locally, but also internationally about their nutritional, health, economic, environmental benefits of a diversified food system. But we need a coordination and capacity development by stakeholders involved in food system, including production, processing, marketing, and consumption and disposal, including the health workers. We need to develop innovative platforms to allow greater access to information, technology transfer. This is what we're doing with the FAO and so on, so that the information is available to all stakeholders involved in all components of food system and value chain. Done similar work in Africa and also some work with ICADA, and organizations like ICRISAT have taken this challenge many, many years ago, but we need to bring them into the mainstream agriculture. And I have showed you how, without significant change in the major crops, how to integrate some of them in our cropping system, both the temporal, spatial distribution, depending upon, and we have the tools and techniques to do that. So thank you very much. I'll stop there. Hope I haven't taken a lot of time.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an amazing session. If there are any questions from the participants, please unmute your mic to ask the question or drop your questions in the chat box.
Thank you. It's good to see we still got 147 participants.
Again, if anyone has any
Participants,
questions,
unmute yourself and ask questions, please.
Very good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Myself, Ajay Sharma, sir. The presentation was so fantastic, sir. Thanks to be the part of this valuable webinar, sir. Sir, I have a question. What role do indigenous and traditional farming practices play in modern crop diversification strategy?
Very good question. I think a lot of these crops, whether it is taro or elephant foot yam, I'm just giving some examples, or drumstick, or some of the millets, a lot of the traditional people in those areas have the knowledge, and we need to work with them. Not only that, a lot of the land races of some of these crops are still there. Some of them are gone, but MS Swaminathan Research Foundation is doing some wonderful work in those areas. So absolutely, we need to work with them. You know, people have used some of these things for their medicinal properties, etc., for long time. So including them in any strategy, any intervention will be very highly useful.
But sir, there are a lot of crops, they are considered as a weed generally, but they are very nutritive and farmers locally consume them. Can we focus on those crops for the particular nutritional security? So
Absolutely.
Is it good idea?
Again, some of the leafy vegetables and things we may consider as weeds. What is needed is that you look at a district, or you look at a state or a particular region, then convene a workshop and identify what are the potential underutilized, neglected crops, whether it is a leafy vegetable, tubers, etc. Assemble them in a spreadsheet. You have the species and why they are important, then what knowledge we have, what evidence we have, and then prioritize. And again, I'm saying that they are not going to replace your rice, wheat, maize, etc. We need to incorporate them either in the rotation or in the mixtures or in the cropping, so that then, of course, awareness of that products to the public, because we wanted to market them, such things. So we're doing some work in what called GIES, Geographical Information and Indices and Environmental Sustainability. We all know geographical information, GIS, where you can tag a particular region and say this is endemic to that area. But on the top of that, if you bring some environmental sustainability, the production practices, lack of overuse of pesticide, etc., then you can tag that. And that's the kind of thing through what we call grower groups or producer groups in India, you call producer groups, can work together and market. I'm doing some in Indonesia. I've done some work in southern part of India, in Kerala, on rice, land races of rice, which is still grown, and eventually they are getting the benefit, because everyone replaced with the modern IRI varieties at that time. But now farmers are realizing that some of them are not climate resilient. They need huge input, pest and disease control, whereas the local varieties, they're tolerant to, for example, saline areas. And only way go forward is that the farmer groups get together and with the help of researchers and extension workers, KV, and other institutions, identify and look at. You may start with a larger list, but then you need to bring down to really important one based on traditional knowledge, whatever is available from literature, people's knowledge, and then promote them.
Sir, there are many questions in the chat box, and participants are praising you for the very informative presentation.
No problem. As long as you have questions, I'm happy to stay, because it's already on a weekend here. Yeah, that's all good. I'm very glad that people enjoyed, because you asked me to give a talk, and on a biodiversity, there has to be more in biological diversity relevant to India. So yes, it's a good story, and I'm sure it's easy
Yes.
to take it up.
So
Thank
there
you.
is
Good.
one question from Farhana Manzoor. She is asking, sir, please make me understand the difference between agroforestry and integrated farming systems.
Very good. So the agroforestry is where, especially in very much where you will have the forestry, but within that you will have some of the crops. For example, if you take states like Kerala, where the land is very precious, you will find in a backyard or in a farmer's field, you will have jackfruit, mango trees, papaya. You will have taro or colocasia. You will have some fruits, vegetables. Then you will have got cucurbites, bitter gourd, and so on. So it is a multi-storied cropping. It is predominantly agroforestry, where you can call them as forest, but it's not the big forest, etc. But as you come into places where you don't have a lot of trees, and that's where the crop diversity comes in. But wherever you have perennials and fruit crops, etc., you can have what we call understory or multi-storied cropping. And that happens in your northeastern states, such as Assam and all that high rainfall areas. So idea is that we wanted to have diversity. If that diversity is from agroforestry, which includes fruits and trees and biomass and cattle feed, etc., that's well and good. So that's the difference.
There is one question from Dr. Evangini Ranja. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for your knowledgeable section, and you have very well elaborated the importance of crop diversification. But however, in one of your slides, you mentioned that crop diversification may result in increased N2O emission. So N2O emission is one of the major
you may have got it wrong. It will reduce the emission.
So it reduces the N2O emission.
So what
And-
I showed, for example, when I had monoculture, then I had a relay cropping, or when I had mixtures of crops, it reduces emission. So what happens is that you will have complementarity coming. You can also have, for example, legume in the system will fix the nitrogen, so you don't need to depending upon that. So generally speaking, you take, for example, in India, you got the rice wheat system of the Indo-Gangetic plains, including Punjab and other places. You just let us take a hectare of wheat, you get maybe 5-6 tons, the amount of nitrogen and water required. And on the top of that, you come with the rice in the rice system. What we're saying is that you need to give a break in that rice system. You may bring a legume crop and so on. Maybe that particular year the profit may go down, but that's because it is sorted by the minimum support price of the government of India. If the government of India pulls that price down back, then will not get. So you need some intervention, and that system, if you include a diversity of crop, I just gave legumes as an example, but you could include oilseed and so on, then your total greenhouse gas emission is reduced. Simply, if you calculate the amount of irrigation, you convert that, the power used for irrigation, the amount of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium you're putting on a 6-ton, 7-ton crop is very high.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Raghbani.
So there is one question from Neelam Rajeshkar Rao. She is asking a very much informative and enlightening session, sir. How can Africa, Asia countries take through provoking research to be done in carbon footprints from the research done at your university, sir? Could you please brief it?
Yeah, very interesting question. So it's a very, very important topic. You can look at various levels. You can look at, first thing is that you need to have a baseline of, let's say, take, I'm not sure where you are coming from, that particular district, and look at a stock of what is the current emission. Of course, a lot of emission is coming from transportation and the factories. Let us leave that alone. The agricultural emission is approximately 30%. So in some countries, it's largely coming from the animals, ruminants, when they burp, the methane. But most of the agriculture emission is coming from the fertilizer use, the nitrous oxide. Then in the case of rice paddy, it is the methane emission coming from. Then whatever operations you do that. So you've got two approaches. One approach is you can look at the production approach, so optimizing the fertilizer use, slow releasing nitrogen fertilizers, placement of fertilizers, diversification I mentioned already. Then you can also look at genetic means. So for example, there's a lot of work going on rice genotypes with or varieties which can have a better nitrogen use efficiency, for example, because they may have a different root system. They take it up, they move into the vegetative tissues, then retranslocate into the grain. We can have nitrification inhibitors, kind of what we call smart fertilizer technology. Then precision agriculture, because a lot of farmers broadcast their fertilizers in the anaerobic conditions. So then you can look at soil amendments. What are the soil amendments? So then we just published a paper on, you can have some organic plus inorganic chemical fertilizers in the ratio of 50-50, 60-40, still you can gain significant gain in terms of carbon footprint. So you need to know where is the footprint coming from. So some of our farmers are many of our farmers are very clever farmers. They have mapped their own farm, the total carbon footprint, where is it coming from? If they have cow, they can measure or they can estimate. If they have the wheat production, they can know how much fertilizer they use, how much tractor they drive. All those they put into a budget and show that maximum emission is coming from here and what are their practices. Then look at, I think there is some research going on in India, particularly Modipuram, the Indian Institute of Farming System Research, some of the state agriculture universities. So you can do it. Soil amendments. For example, if you have clay in sandy soils, or if you've got biochar. I gave a talk the other day at the Division of Agronomy last month at the IRI. Biochar, manures application along with that, placement of fertilizers. So there's a lot of ways we can look at. In the case of animals, you can look at different type of feed, which then reduces the emission. We can even look at animal breeds, which have got different microflora or bacteria in the gut, which then reduces the fermentation in a way and reduces the methane. So feed additives, animal selection and breeding, plant varieties, agronomic practices, technology, precision agriculture, all can reduce the greenhouse gas emission and footprint.
Thank you so much, sir, for being so patient and answering the participants.
Not a problem.
So there is one question from Ruchika. She is asking an enriching and thought-provoking lecture. She's praising you. And then
Thank you.
she is asking, what lesson can India learn from Australian experiences in promoting sustainable, diversified farming system?
I think, of course, India is rich in terms of agriculture. Australia is young, as you know, that Australia is a new continent. 200 years ago, we didn't have any agriculture. They were what we call Aboriginal people. They never had any agriculture as we see today. They hunters and gatherers. They ate some tubers and berries. Australia never had any crop originated. Those who are in the genetic resources know that every crop was introduced to Australia, whereas India has got a rich diversity of crops originated. In terms of Australia, the difference is large farms, mechanized. We were largely sheep and some pastures and wheat. Now we are learned our lessons. We diversified. Now we have got wheat, barley, canola, oats, pulses. I've done a lot of work on pulses, chickpea, lentils, faba beans, peas, lupins. And we strictly follow rotations where possible, less so in the cropping because highly mechanized. So problem in India, it is smallholders. The land is divided, again divided, subdivided. That's a big issue for India, and that needs policy intervention. Only way to do is that in a village level, you have got that unity. The growers has get together, and they need to decide on a landscape, on a GIS basis. This is the total land available in the village, and these are the crops we're doing. And how do we so for me, if I just grow rice every year, and then I am really destroying that particular piece of land. So if I grow rice, then say my other farmer will grow, for example, a kharif legume or whatever, and so that needs to be looked into it. So you cannot have individual farmer looking rotation. There's not enough land. Of course, you can look at the strip rotation. So to me, the strengthening the farmer groups in India, we have farmer groups in Australia, big farmer groups, then working on government intervention, land capability use studies. What is the land available in a district in Rajasthan or wherever you are coming from? And then we have got the GIS and powerful satellite data. Then using some smart technology, we look at the pattern, and then we can design all that on a computer based without even going into the field, put some permutation and combination, look at what are the probability, will that affect the disease, what is the spray drift, what is the market. And so you need some support for the farmer groups. Again, I emphasize the formation of farmer groups. I think ICR is promoting, not enough. And then young people coming with technologies from engineering and IITs, etc., and treat that as a business, because you have 1.48 billion people. You have got huge supermarkets coming everywhere. You have a huge consumption. You don't need to export. You have got huge consumption within India. Income is increasing. People are demanding quality food from Delhi, Mumbai, whatever cities. Cities cannot produce food. Where is the food going to come from? And we need to look after the land. So a system thinking completely we have to look at. For that, on a regional scale approach, district level approach, panchayat level approach, and then bring collectively together.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, another question from Varudhini. How can we increase the value addition throughout our food supply chains with immediate interventions?
This is a very good question. Again, I come back to the point that, when you have rice and wheat, you can't really do much. You just harvest it, bag it, it's taken to the mandi, or someone will take, they will mill it, etc. It goes. Whereas when you have this kind of crops and vegetables, if you go in places like Delhi, around Delhi, parts of UP and my geography, Haryana and all those, you see a lot of peri-urban agriculture going on, peri-urban agriculture. A lot of the vegetables, the cucurbitaceae, some of the leafy vegetables are all produced around Delhi with, I've seen plastic tunnels and so on. So they have done it in a way, they are supplying that to huge consumption people in Delhi, Gurgaon area. So I think first of all, you need a traditional crops, rice and wheat. But in addition to that, you need to look at the vegetables and the fruits and nuts, etc. But we need to form the farmer groups. Then we need to identify what is special about that product and then market them. So take, for example, spices. Again, I take either from the northeastern states or southern states of India, where the spices, the commodities are in premium demand. And that's largely because of the marketing and the way the government has done the work. Not all states of India can produce everything. And the transportation is good. So identifying, and then the farmers are not able to do all that. That's where younger people, educated people from agriculture and other science get in, the farmers cooperative. You got a good example. Let us take the Amul milk. So it was started by late Professor Kurian. When Professor Kurian went and did his master's from Netherlands, I think he was from Wageningen University, he came back. I think he was somewhere in Gujarat, if my story is correct. He then had this idea. Most farmers have got 1 or 2 buffaloes. They used to get the buffaloes to the nearest tea stall, milk the buffaloes, give them, then keep on going. And that's where one of the world's largest cooperatives, I think it is farmer-owned cooperative. Look at the products they have developed, look at the market they have reached out, etc. That's a very good example of the power of farmers' cooperatives. And you don't need the whole India-wide. You can have locally based producer group, women producers group, etc. But what is needed is the correct facilitation and some incentives by the government. That's where perhaps India's agriculture future is. You've got a beautiful, large consumption base in India. That's not going to go away. Your population is still young, hungry, very dietary diversities, and you are not going to import all that from elsewhere. You have to have locally produced, locally labeled, and what we call food provenance. In other words, local production, a story behind a product. I'll tell you some examples. The work I'm doing in China with 27 products in China, and one of them is what we call Yanchi sheep. So this sheep is produced in a northwest region, very dry, arid region, but the sheep has to graze the grass and the shrubs. But that shrubs and grass get water and nutrients from the soil. So that particular sheep has got a specific flavor. So when you cook or when you barbecue, the flavor is there. So other parts doesn't have. We put a GIS in that area, put environmental sustainability, now marketed like just like hot potato. The other one is Junlin, about 2 hours flight from north of Beijing, where the cleanest water, the second cleanest water in the world. The first one is in Switzerland. You know, Switzerland is a beautiful country. All the mountains, the snow melts, the water comes into the lakes. So like that in Junlin, the mountains are fresh, beautiful, lot of snow comes into the water. And that lake's got a kind of fish, which now they're growing because the farmers adding the right feed and so on. That fish has got a specific flavor and taste. And the farmers formed what I call a telemarketing group. So every week, a particular day, that you can open your television or you can go into your telephone and see, they will be having boxes of this fish and either cut or ready. And if I'm sitting in Shanghai, which is thousands of kilometers away, I can order, then immediately it is coming online. What they call it there in Alibaba, you've got Amazon in there, so they have their own, and the products are marketed directly from the farm groups with a label. So here are examples. I'm sure that there are such things happening in India, but not enough.
Thank you, sir. One more question from G. Thihara. Is there any cumulative food source rich with all minerals and nutrition for the people who are poor?
Wow, that's quite an interesting story. But I think some of the crops, like say, for example, your millets, some of the leafy vegetables, some of the taros, some of the yams, they are rich in lot of the things. Oh, of course, we cannot depend upon one. So in the diet, if you have some of the leafy vegetables, some of the tubers, and then you got some of the cereals, and if you include, that is more than enough for that. Where else they get? If they simply take the starchy maize, corn flour, and wheat flour alone, and they're not going to get that from. On the top of that, you got the fruits and vegetables. That's also very much happening in India. Everyone can afford some kind of fruits. When season times mango, then the vegetables like tomato and cucumber and your moolies and various kinds of things. So some of them are less expensive if they can grow locally, so forth. And people, meat consumption, fish consumption is very expensive, and so on. Yeah. So those things and soybeans and things are going to helpful. Your chickpeas, lentils, your rajma, all those. That's the diversity. The more the diverse in a basket, unfortunately, they don't have the money to buy from the supermarket. So it has to be grown. Then those who can take egg and milk. So it's just not just based on one, but certainly dietary diversity will help them to overcome some of the malnutrition problem, particularly pregnant women, which is neglected, lactating mothers. These are all. One thing I forgot to add is that the government has got a huge role to play. Take, for example, the breakfast program and midday meal program. If you simply put a lot of money into that, the low socioeconomic people, their children will come to school because it's an attraction for the Adivasis and tribal people because they don't have the breakfast. Once you eat a good breakfast, your brain functions, then you get a lunch. But if you included that lunch and breakfast, some of the crops which we mentioned today, it can make a huge difference. And that's why government should come in forward. Otherwise, what will happen? You are neglecting a huge generation of young people. 35-40% of the children under 5 are malnourished, which is not good. And the same way, if the government start procuring some of these products for your large army, air force, your naval people, they eat a lot of food. And if simply giving only the so-called non-diverse food, if we get some of these products from the farmer groups, etc., directly by the government, so they have a steady market. So these are some of the intervention strategies: school breakfast program, midday meal program. Then you got aged people who cannot eat all the very rich food, etc. They also need some of the soft food. So then hospitals and other places where we include a piece of jackfruit, a couple of pieces of mango, or whatever is available in their program, all on a sudden it is a cumulative effect for the population, but also for the farmers need a steady, good price. Otherwise, they won't grow.
Thank you
It's
so
not
much,
all
sir.
about it's not all about science, agriculture, science, and that's what if there are young people in the audience, you need to think beyond. Of course, I learned my agriculture science. I'm from Kerala. I did my undergraduate from there, master's from IRI, PhD from here. But I had to read. I know the thing. I'm not expert in everything, but I need to read. This is what you, especially the younger generation, going to be in the workforce for the next 20 plus years or whatever. You are the people going to make difference. But the senior people in your country, they have done their bit and they are retired. They're not going to be the drivers of your country for the next 10, 20 years.
Thank you, sir. One last question from Srishti Mishra. What are the opportunities for PhD agriculture candidates in Australia?
Yes, so PhD, number of ways. We do get students from internationally on a competitive basis. In fact, as a matter of we speaks today, I think I don't know, you were there at the BP Pal auditorium. I mentioned a young lady, Nishita. She's just coming, I think tomorrow's flight, she coming on a forest fellowship. She applied for a forest fellowship, which is extremely hard. We had 900,000 applicants eligible, and of that, they only gave for 4. So everyone said, oh, people from India will not be able to do that. She contacted me. She just was completing her PhD at that time and got this prestigious scholarship. And me, for example, I would not be in this giving a talk. I won't be as elegant as you think now if I was not given the opportunity. I got my scholarship from my university, which I'm very pleased. That's based on a merit and so on. So you just have to look at not only in Australia, but other parts of the world. And of course, nothing wrong in studying in India, but I always encourage students to move from one institution to the other, which helps you to expand your horizon. So scholarships are there, extremely competitive. Masters, you have to be from a good university, high academic scores. A publication will be important. And unfortunately, a lot of the master students in India doesn't publish, and publishing in good journals is also important. So then look at the places like Australia, Canada, US, Europe, many places. There's a lot of students coming out of India studying, and it is a good experience. Some of them may not get a job, they may go back, or they may go to another country, and so on. So if you have interest, not all should do PhD. That's what I say. PhD is a long-term commitment, so 3 to 4 years, then, and very highly competitive. If you simply do a PhD and you are not committed to that, then you will not be successful. Highly competitive. So there's a lot of opportunities, including
Thank you,
in
sir.
Australia.
Thank you, sir, for the advice. We have a question from
I
Saurabh
think there is no
Gangola.
any question in chat box.
There is just one question more, sir, and then we'll conclude.
I'll take, no problem. Saurabh Kaur.
Saurav Gangola, he has asked,
Gangola.
as you suggested, intercropping is a better option because of the available land is continuously decreasing. However, his question is, does intercropping put additional pressure on the soil since it has to fulfill the nutrient requirements of multiple crops simultaneously? On the other hand, if there is any nutrient depletion among the plants in an intercropping system, do the plants become nutritionally deficient compared to when the same crops are grown individually as sole crops?
So the question is good. I think I mentioned, covered that. So the idea is that these are what we call compatible crops. So I showed a nice photo of the Gansu province where I had the peas, which is a legume crop, stripped with maize. Maize is a C4 plant. Pea is a C3 plant. They have got different growing temperatures and regimes. One fixes abundant amount of nitrogen, and that nitrogen taken up by that legume, but also then releases to the maize crop. So in that case, that works. Then I mentioned about wheat maize system. Both are cereals and they are not diversity. If you bring a broadleaf crop, then their root system is different, their root architecture is different, their resource use is different, which I showed in a paper from the mixtures. So generally speaking, the mixtures resource uses are at different positions and different times. They complement. They also, I didn't go through, I have got huge amount of work on root exudates. Some of them exudate organic anions like malic, citrate, etc. They solubilize the soil-bound phosphate, such as in aluminium or magnesium in acid soils, or in calcareous soils, the calcium-bound phosphate, which is not available to your wheat and rice, whereas some of these crops can solubilize, make it available. So that depends upon the crop type and the kind of intercrop or strip crop or mixed crop you're talking. Generally speaking, the mixtures are more resilient, or intercrops are more resilient than, but you would not generally have a cereal intercropping, because if you have a maize and a wheat, not really good in that sense. So monocotyledons versus dicotyledons, broadleaf or narrow leaf, legume versus cereals, oil seed. So all that have a different footprint.
Thank you so much, sir. And like today, I can see that the participants are so much curious. I can see so many questions in the chat box. I would suggest the participants, I will take the email ID of the sir. You can ask any of the question or any of the queries that you have. You can directly email sir. And sir, if you could provide with your email ID, so I can give it to them.
I think both Arun, Ankur, and Prakati got all the details.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank you so
And-
much, sir. Thank you.
And yes, sir.
Really, sir, very insightful
Yeah.
lecture, sir. Very
Thank
insightful
you.
lecture.
Is that
You,
Ankur? Is that
you
Ankur?
accept our invitation, sir.
Yeah,
I
no
also
problem.
request you, sir, kindly support me in upcoming summer school as well as global conference on women that we held on
Yeah.
Chandigarh. Looking
Yeah.
forward to your support and
Send me some details, and then let me see
definitely,
what.
sir. I will send a request letter through mail
Yeah.
for knowledge partner as well as lecture.
Okay. We'll see how we go. So, once again, thank you, Pragati, and thank you, Ankur, and thank you also, Saida Nahal, for the introduction. And it was very good to see that 145, 146 participants, and I hope I've done my job well for you guys.
Now we will
Really.
conclude the session. Thank you so much, Professor
you.
Siddiqui, sir.
Yeah, thank you again. All the best for you and team. Yeah, take care.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
all the best.
Really,
Yeah.
sir, very humble and genuine personality I have ever met, sir. Really.
We're all human beings. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take
sir.
care. God bless
Thank you.
all.
Namaste. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Namaste. Namaste. Bye bye.
Participants can now leave the meeting.